Jeffrey, I think you're muted. Jeffrey, can you hear me? I think you're muted.
I am. Thank you very much, Kayla.
Yeah,
hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good, thanks.
Wow.
Good. This is the third panel of the day, blockchain accessibility, opening doors around the world. It's great to see you all. Maybe we'll start off. Can everybody introduce yourselves? Start with Kayla.
Hi, my name is Kayla. I am the creative director and co-founder for the Koii Network, and we are very excited to have you all here for this wonderful event we're putting on today.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I guess I could jump in there. Apologies for my voice. I've been fighting off a bad cold. My name is John O'Sullivan. I'm the business development manager for Project ARC. We are partnered with the World Wildlife Fund, and we're looking to use NFTs to empower animal and environmental conservation efforts around the world.
Cool.
Hi, everyone. I am Charu. I lead marketing at Unique Network. Unique Network is the NFT chain for Polkadot and Kusama ecosystem. Glad to be here, and thanks, Koii, for doing this.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me all right?
Can hear you. Yes.
All right, great. I happy to be here. My name is Jeremy. I'm the founder and CEO of Leyline. We're focused on building an ecosystem and leveraging NFTs for social good and gamifying life. That's the dream, at least. Happy to talk about it, though. Thank you for having me.
Right on. All right. So when I think of opening doors, the word that comes to my mind is inclusion. Not necessarily something that blockchain has been historically great at, but it seems to be getting better. Maybe we can start off with Charu. Have you noticed any impactful things in the past few years that have changed this space, opened more doors for people?
Yes. So I think at a fundamental level, I believe that democratizing of technology is as important as it is for utilities. We may not think of it like that, but I truly believe so. And enabling access will actually deliver strategies, and access strategies for future will deliver future growth. And the key idea is to lower barriers to access and dissemination of information, which is very key. And the fundamental idea of democratic financial governance is in the DNA of many public blockchains. If you compare it to traditional technologies, you do see that there is a lot of access to information and to learn in this industry, but there are still concepts and platforms that are highly asymmetric today that have immense potential if leveled. And you can make them totally symmetric, and in doing so, you get a lot more people to the starting line. Starting from the early years of Bitcoin and Ethereum, where only people who understood the white paper could really, take a step forward. But over the years, there are platforms that have developed, and I would love to later share what we are doing at Unique Network in terms of really breaking down the barriers and enabling access. So there is constant change every day. You see new projects that are closer to mass adoption or are going in that direction. So definitely there's a lot that's changing.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy, same question. Who's being left at the table and why? Add that in there.
Yeah, I certainly think that there's both this enormous opportunity and enormous problem when it comes to folks that are being left behind in this whole digital revolution. And in my eyes, it's really the working poor and developing nations. Which is very much so why, our organization is very focused on trying to plant the right seeds and bring the right access and education into these specific areas. So currently, Leyline, we're actually partnered with NGOs in Haiti, South Africa, Botswana, and Indonesia, and really targeting how do we actually bring the right education, access, and opportunity into these communities to basically leapfrog into this new world of abundance. What we've encountered so far is really just these four big categories of challenges that are blocking inclusion. Charu was really spot on with access being like the number one. If you don't have any infrastructure to get access into the internet or have the devices available, you're stuck. There's like no way you can even begin. So that's the first layer of just getting there. But even once you provide the access, what kind of education and support is in place for that? So, whether they understand what crypto even is, but how do they even, when they're first given access to the internet, what are the safe ways to protect your identity and to secure passwords and your seed phrases? There's like very basic fundamental educational requirements to even get people into this space. The third layer is the UX. So the user experience is also very difficult. Like, it's really confusing to get into this space and understand, what's my MetaMask? What's the cold wallet? Like, what's the hot wallet? Like, all these things are quite complicated. And I do think this is going to improve over time because there are startups after startups that are looking to create a much more seamless experience and make that onboarding much smoother and automated. And then the fourth bit is utility. So now the final question is, okay, what am I going to do in this space? Now that I've got access, now that I understand, I've set up my wallet, is the activities here actually valuable to me in some way? Am I finding this connection or meaning and purpose? And then am I having fun? So I feel like we're now at this stage of, you've got to get that whole vertical stack ready for getting this big adoption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to circle back to some of those things in a little while, especially on the what can we do to reduce friction side. I know one of the big ones for me for 10 years now is even explaining something as simple as what gas is, right? Like, why do I have to pay this fee every time I interact with something on chain? And just the whole process of explaining that to people is it's a bit mind-bogglingly difficult, actually. Kayla, what is Koii noticing in terms of the diversity in the space, and how are you guys working to change some of that?
Well, so there's a lot going on. Charu and Jeremy have touched on a lot of the problems there. One of the things that we find as a big problem in this space is that if you want to create something in blockchain, like, yes, we need to work on a lot of UX and diversity of access, like infrastructure for users. But if people want to build a blockchain app, they have to spend 3 to 6 months learning Solidity or another one of those of the Web3 like blockchain languages for smart contracts and all of that. And one of the things that we're really focused on, our SDK, our software development kit, is completely in JavaScript. So anybody who is a developer who knows JavaScript can come in and start building on Koii and can make like a very easy app. Like we're saying, build a Facebook competitor in 5 minutes or less is like the goal for us with the templates that we're building. But if you, just got out of school or took a boot camp and JavaScript and you want to make something really cool, you shouldn't have to put another year of work in order just to begin building something that will give ownership back to all of your users and let more people have control over their content.
Mm-hmm. John, how about you?
Sorry. So the question is, what am I seeing in terms of accessibility in the space then?
Yeah. Who's being left at the table? I mean, it's a lot of guys that look like us, right?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the nice things at Project Arc and Carbon Base, our parent company, is that I think we speak about 12 languages with 13 different countries. Diversity of thought creates a much better product, especially when it comes to blockchain, given that your demographic, your potential user is anyone and everyone with the internet. So one thing that we're really trying to do at Project Arc, which is being led by a new initiative, is the Impact NFT Alliance. So we're looking for any and all Web3 actors to come together and really start, sharing knowledge and resources, tools, and network, because we're of the opinion that if you're looking to create positive, impact in the world via blockchain NFTs, then we're not in competition with one another. We should be able to lift all boats together. And I do feel that having a more central repository of these people and these contacts and these initiatives is going to be half the battle when it comes to, new actors understanding the space. And another thing that I think is very exciting is that, impact NFTs can be a major actor for people even entering the DeFi space. It's incredibly hard to understand NFTs. It's much more hard to understand some of the other DeFi things that are coming in, but this is the first step for many. So, I do believe also that the permeation of more fiat on-ramps is a big one. as more people are able to just get set up very frictionlessly. That's something we're working on with our partner Simplex. So I would invite anyone and everyone on stage and who's watching to check out impactnft.org and see if we can all partner together to help make this space more accessible.
Mm-hmm. I think something that interestingly nobody mentioned, but I think is also worth talking about is the unintentional perhaps, but inherent ageism in the space. What can we do and is it even necessary to open these doors more to people that are not necessarily technologically savvy at all, like grandma's first smartphone? Does grandma need to trade NFTs? I don't know.
So one of the things that we see moving forward is that in the future, you aren't even going to know that you're using a blockchain app. It's just going to be an app that's easy to use. That's where the UX comes in. You know, my grandma used Facebook before she passed. You know, if my grandma can use Facebook, my grandma can use the future of blockchain apps, right? As long as we are making it super easy. I know our founder, Alex, he founded a company called WeTeachBlockchain.org, and part of the process for that was like actually explaining things to his grandmother and seeing where she had issues and like how do you educate somebody who didn't grow up like I did, you know, getting on AOL Internet Messenger or Instant Messenger, you know, in middle school. So there is educational components, but that needs to be woven into what we are creating as part of like onboarding and everything like that, that somebody makes it so easy for them to use, because it is a big problem, as you're saying, just getting people who are less technologically savvy into this space. I try to explain to my parents what I do at Koii, and they just like, you know, goes over their heads and says
glaze over, right?
A little bit. And using, you know, I can test on my parents to see like, okay, what do you understand, and use that as a framework for educating the wider world.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else thoughts on age in the space?
I think in terms of age, I know the age bracket that we know of in the industry is young, is vibrant. But at the same time, I want to highlight one of the partnerships we announced with UN Habitat and Glocha around an digital art for climate initiative. This was targeted mainly at youth, and I know we have a lot of young artists who are in the NFT industry, but how about the young artists who don't have access to computers or to digital art tools? So we wanted to take that initiative to those young artists who need to be included in this. And so the aim was to empower artists, designers, and activists worldwide to create art that can inspire people to take action against the global climate crisis. So this initiative was sort of two elements, and we were very focused on breaking down the barriers to entry on both the elements. The first, as I said, was an art competition. So we decided that we will accept any art. It can be traditional art, as long as it's visual art. We will accept that and tokenize that into, and that will be able to participate in the art competition. And the second part was building an NFT marketplace for this initiative. So Unique Network is building an NFT marketplace for this initiative, but we decided that we will invite young UX and UI designers to build this marketplace. And one of the conscious decisions was to build our platform. So Unique Network is sort of an infrastructure and middleware provider for building any NFT ecosystem. And the conscious choice that we made is anyone who is a UX UI designer and doesn't know blockchain can still spin up a NFT marketplace in a matter of few hours. So we ran a design-a-thon, a competition to invite UX UI designers to build the front end, and they know nothing about blockchain. So we enable them with basic knowledge, and they are working on creating that marketplace where the young artists from across globe, from across UN Habitat communities will be participating in. And it's very interesting to see the teams that came together for Designathon were from the winning team, one participant from France, one from Nigeria, Uganda. We were just so overwhelmed to see the participation, and that was because they didn't need to know what blockchain is, and that's the mission we want to take forward and focus on.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a great segue into just generally speaking a little bit about the social good that all of you are doing in the space, and that all of us can learn from and perhaps participate in. Jeremy, I know that with Leyline, you guys are incentivizing basically charitable actions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so, to get to the heart of what we're building, we're establishing we're calling a proof of good protocol. And the platform that we've set up is really to connect with any social impact organization, whether you're a charity or a nonprofit or NGO, academic institution. And so what we want to do is have these real world validators of people that are volunteering and contributing, whether it's donating money or time or blood or, clothes, any amount of acts of good. We want to have this, network of trusted third parties that can validate that, and then build a community and a DAO that holds that set of trusted third parties accountable to
third parties. Can you elaborate a little bit about who they might be?
Yeah. So, one of our first partners when we first prototyped was actually UC Berkeley with a project called BOINC, which is a distributed computing, research network. And so we were able to build an API to connect and validate, okay, how many hours of computing power people are donating to cancer research and climate change research and COVID research. So we ended up building this validation method where users were passively doing good and earning as a result. And then we realized and learned, oh, wow, there's a whole story to tell here about people and the good that they do. And this to me is like the solve for, or not solve, but rather an additional critical value to put into these NFTs, where anybody can generate art these days and music these days. In fact, AI is already doing that for us. So one of the things that we're going to find meaning and value in purchasing NFTs is actually the human story behind it. What kind of impact have you had, and whether or not the NFTs have this transparency and traceability to a real world positive impact. I think one of the challenges we have is we're kind of escaping into this digital metaverse. And then in doing so, we forget about the problems of reality and we lose empathy and priority on like, oh my God, we got to stop the climate change crisis, guys. So, what we want to do is like, we don't want to, take this binary approach. We should actually integrate them together so that incentive model in the metaverse is still flowing back to the real world and actually making a big impact. And in fact, giving back is like probably the number one thing for happiness. So I think like human, well-being and value needs to be intrinsically tied into this NFT ecosystem that's exploding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of the idea that the key to happiness is really a combination of three things. It's personal health, wealth, and community, the interactions that we have with each other and how we take care of each other. It's interesting. I feel like what Koii is working on ties in very closely to what Leyline is doing with the Narcissus flower and the act of going and observing an NFT and how that changes things. Maybe you can talk a little bit, Kayla, about ways that you guys are doing things similar or ways that you're different from what Leyline's working on, how these things can connect.
We've actually been speaking with Leyline about a possible partnership as building on top of Koii and integrating, because we are very focused on rewarding people for the work that they create and art, because kind of what you were saying, Jeffrey, about the things that make people happy. Like, to me, I have a background in theater, and to me, making art for other people to experience and creating empathy, and like art, more art in the world makes people better, because it, like I said, can further your empathy. It can make you happy. It can make you feel emotions that we don't necessarily feel every day. So we do want to have projects like Leyline building on top of Koii, so that not only are you rewarded for doing good in the form of creating art and making the world a better place, but actually doing acts of service and other, charitable donations and your time and all of that. You should be rewarded for doing things that matter. And so Leyline's mission fits very strongly as a company that we would love to be working with us and building on top of the Koii network, using our node network and all of that. And so we are in talks already about making a partnership happen.
We're gonna make it happen, Kayla.
Yeah,
we're bringing those atomic NFTs for sure. We got some exciting stuff cooking up. So stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, it's a secret.
Right on. So I wanna maybe examine something you said there, Kayla. So to me, there's a, I don't know if I'd call it a problem, but there's definitely a proliferation of art in a more commercial sense rather than art for art's sake. And this it's so interesting to be creating something or potentially creating something where it does still have those commercial aspects, but it is engaging people in a way that is good for the soul, I suppose, in a way. So I just want to say I think that's really interesting. John, do you have some thoughts on using this technology for social good?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're all pretty much working with the same relative goal, right? We want artists that are passionate about telling a story that can change the way people, reflect on their role in the natural world, want to learn more, educate, and bring other people into the community. You want to connect them with collectors that are purpose-driven, that want something that's inherently unique, valuable, but also they can make money off from the secondary market. We still have to remember that this is a marketplace. And then the third is, these impact projects themselves. One thing that I found interesting was that, the vast majority of conservation organizations around the world right now are struggling to get money. They're all in competition with one another for the next round of grant funding that's getting cut off. You can't hold fundraisers. This provides an opportunity to put another, tool in their toolkit to really diversify their funding streams. But beyond that, why do we spend $20 on a cause? Often because we're guilted into it through a very sad commercial or something we scroll by. We can do better than that. We can change the narrative, right? Art is political. We can inspire, we can educate, we can really connect with people. So one of the key things that, just as an example, we're looking to do in our partnership with Chainlink is create quote unquote living art. We want the NFT to reflect the situation on the ground. So if it's rainy, it's rainy. If it's sunny, it's sunny. If it's a herd of elephants we're supporting and they give birth, we drop a little baby in there. If it's a coral reef and God forbid the reef bleaches, then we'll bleach the NFT, because people need to feel a constant feedback loop with the actual outcomes on the ground. And that ties into, blockchain transparency itself. So I don't think, everybody who doesn't really know about the NFT space says, oh, you're flipping JPEG. Well, there's so much more that the technology can do. For example, we're actually using blockchain NFTs right now to facilitate the transfer of endangered species for one of the largest conservation organizations in Africa. So it'll be the largest move of any endangered species ever conducted in human history. And once that happens, we can embed satellite imagery and data into the back end to actually give somebody who owns that NFT, which represents that animal, a feeling of, kinship and connectivity with what the impact of their dollar was. Another example is, or one other thing I think is important as well, is the role of corporations in this space. I really think that corporate social responsibility in the blockchain NFT space is inevitable. We recently had a project which supported 4 organizations for Lay's PepsiCo, and we intend to go far, far deeper. We have a number of projects in place where we can even use NFTs to prevent the oil exploration of large swaths of land as purchased by corporations. That acts as a part of their corporate social responsibility. One thing that I think is cool is that you can get a lot more bang for your buck if you use it as your CSR. Because right now you spend $1 million, you send it to the marketing team, washes over your consumer. They say, good for you, you're greenwashed or whatever. But with an NFT, You can get people to buy into it. You can get people to actually co-create, co-brand, and be boots on the ground for you, part of this cause. So I think that the technology is really just in its infancy, and it's like drinking water through a fire hose with all the new information that comes out every day. But I'm excited to see where the sector goes, because we're going to be able to engage people on a whole new level.
Cool. So something just came into my mind, so I thought I'd ask. And this is just for everybody. Is there something inherently bad about, or maybe not bad, but potentially a complex situation to deal with down the road, about creating assets that a lot of people are buying for a financial incentive, regardless of whether or not the assets themselves are being used to do some social good? Is there a risk there, in the sense that these assets might at some point devalue? What happens if you have an NFT that is, save the rainforest, and it's doing this great work and tracking all the trees that are being cut down, but then the NFT itself, one day you wake up and the floor is suddenly like nothing, and nobody cares anymore. What happens then? Is that something to worry about?
And from our perspective, this is something we're concerned about. We discuss with every day. We're even, what about perverse incentives of tying, rarity of a species in the wild with an actual rarity in an NFT? God forbid no one will go out and shoot an animal to make their NFT worth more money, but it is one of the possibilities, right? So we're cognizant of this, and I think you meet a lot of people's opinions across the spectrum. Some are very purist. Some are, the old school crypto guys that really just, they want to make money. I think until we have mass adoption and, the social impact side of NFTs are still primarily, and it's sad to say, not going to be one of the number one motivators for people to purchase these. So I think we have to be very realistic in our expectations. We have to be very cognizant of what the demographic is, because I think that we may feel like we're playing ball with some characters now, but at the end of the day, we need to do this to be the forerunners of the space when we do finally have this mass adoption, this critical mass in NFT use. So I think it's our duty to just be very cognizant of the risk, to mitigate them as they come up, and to steward the communities in such a way that we are doing our absolute best to work with the best actors out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to add in as well. And John, I think you hit the nail on the head for sure. And some of the ways that I also see that too is that, I think financing and economics are an absolute necessity. In order for you to have like an organization and a platform and a business that has some kind of sustainability and longevity, you need the financial support to keep the lifeblood of the engine going. And so it is just one of the unfortunate realities of the world we live in today, is that money makes the world go round. So you need an element of financing in any project. But there's a separate layer there, because you have an investor cohort that's looking at projects, evaluating and figuring out, okay, does this thing have legs? Does it have a good team? Does it have a good community? Yes, I'll back this, because not only is the purpose great or I love the product, but I feel like this is going to go somewhere. I'm going to gain, I'm going to invest in it and then gain assets out of it or gain wealth out of it. But the most important piece is the community, the actual users, the people that are running the platform, using the platform, and invested it with real skin in the game. I think that's the most important cohort to look at. And that's where investors pay attention to, is oh, how strong is that community? Are they going to stick with this thing? Are they seeing value come out of it? That is the most critical piece. And I think the solution for this to be sustainable and to avoid things like rug pulls and bad actors is transparency and accountability. And that happens, one, inherently because we're open source for a vast majority of what we're building, but two, because of DAOs. And I think DAOs are going to have the most important impact possible for all of society. So essentially, to me, every single project eventually has to move into a DAO, because they're going to be forced to have transparency. And then with the transparency is accountability. And with accountability, you need governance. So I think the financial aspect is how we kind of kickstart projects in this movement, but then it elevates and matures into governance and and decentralized governance.
Mm-hmm. It looks like we're running up right against the last minute or two of our panel here. So I just have one more question, I guess, for all of you, but let's start with Charu. What do you see NFTs being used for in the future? Is generative art all they're good for? Is there more of a utility side? What are some other ways that maybe we aren't using NFTs now, but we will?
Yeah, I think what we see now is one use case that digital art represented. I mean, NFTs representing digital art, and even within that, there is so much movement. For example, NFTs for charity, and from that, it moved on to a living, breathing representation of an endangered rhino. So there is progress there. But going into the future, I believe that this will evolve into very different use cases. They may or may not be called NFTs, but the one clear trend that I see coming together is the marketplaces of tomorrow's and the tokenized assets. I think COVID has given such huge demand shocks to the marketplaces of today that it may forever change patterns. So I believe that NFTs coming along with e-commerce is going to shape into something pretty spectacular. And it's like, giving a Web 2 experience to Web 3 technologies. That's where I see it going.
Mm-hmm. Kayla?
So I'm just going to tease the next panel a little bit because it is called Utility in NFTs. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about that for another 30 minutes. But the way that we see NFTs, like the atomic NFT standard that we've developed, is the fundamental building block for the future of the internet. Because as people are building decentralized apps, social media competitors, like anything like that, whatever you put onto the internet will be an atomic NFT. And so you will always get the rewards from the things that you've put out. But just generally, everything will be built upon this fundamental unit. I agree, Charu. I don't think that they're going to be called NFTs forever. But this is the very basic unit from which we can build, the things that we haven't even imagined yet.
Mm-hmm. John?
I'll just give one example of one that we're working on a corporation for. Let's say you wanted to build the world's largest underwater art exhibit that turns into a living, breathing coral reef. So you pay as a corporation for, that concrete and metal infrastructure. And then you NFT for $25, $50 a pop, each one of the 10,000 corals that are planted right on it right there. It's going to take 2 years. We're going to update everyone via that NFT on chain. You now have a community of 10,000 purchasers. It empowers the local community. It creates biodiversity. It's a carbon heat sink. It impacts a number of SDGs. And then that company itself now, anyone who's an NFT holder can dive that reef for free, can be taken on a tour. And now you have literally a little piece of history, because some of these corals that people are creating have never even been existed in human history before, because they're splicing the genetics to be more climate change resilient. So these are examples of a corporation being able to use its CSR project to legitimately develop a constant feedback loop with a new community that cares about something that it now can film at, shoot at, dive at, do whatever you want, and it'll live there for hopefully thousands of years to come. So that's just one example, and I think we're just scratching the surface, as I mentioned.
I'm being told that we got to end the panel right now. I'm really sorry, Jeremy. I don't think you're going to get the last word here. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.